Okay, news time. We do have breaking news tonight, and it is breaking news from Democratic leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer. He has written a letter to President Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, telling him to educate the president. Chuck Schumer is siding with Dan Coats and the other leaders of intelligence agencies who were criticized by the president today for completely disagreeing with him in their public testimony to the Senate yesterday, giving their assessment of the worldwide threats the United States faces. Senator Schumer's letter to Director Coats says President Trump's criticisms of the testimony you and the other intelligence leaders provided to Congress yesterday was extraordinarily inappropriate and will undermine public confidence in the U.S. government's efforts to protect our national security and preserve U.S. power and influence abroad. I believe it is incumbent on you, Director Wray and Director Haspel, to insist on an immediate meeting with the president to educate him about the facts and raw intelligence underlying the intelligence community assessments, and to impress upon him how critically important it is for him to join you and the leadership of our intelligence community in speaking with a unified, accurate voice about national security threats. He is putting your colleagues in an untenable position and hurting the national interest in the process. You must find a way to make that clear to him. Educate him. In other words, do the impossible. Do what no one has ever been able to do. No previous president has ever publicly attacked all of the heads of America's intelligence gathering agencies and all of the people working in those agencies. That is what Donald Trump did today, because the 42-page report of the Worldwide Threat Assessment presented to the Senate yesterday by the heads of those agencies is actually the work product of everyone working in those agencies. The title of the document is Worldwide Threat Assessment of the U.S. Intelligence Community. The work of thousands of people went into that document, including thousands of people who were not being paid for some of the time that that document was being produced because of the Trump shutdown of the government. This is one of those days where we try to reach for the language that will place this event in history. We try to find the words to convey the enormity of the aberrant behavior the president displayed. And when we try to find those words now, we fail, because the language has been exhausted by Donald Trump. The word unprecedented has no power anymore. The word outrageous has no power. The word irresponsible means nothing anymore in the same sentence with the words Donald Trump. But some of us will still try, and some of us have apparently given up. The New York Times initial reporting of what the president said today made no attempt at all to convey the profound presidential perversity of Donald Trump, issuing a tweet this morning in which he screamed, "They are wrong!" exclamation point, at what he called the intelligence people. The New York Times report on that and other tweets attacking the intelligence people said, "It is unusual for the president to pick a fight with his intelligence chiefs." That kind of reporting is total victory for Donald Trump. The brainwashing is working. The outrage fatigue is working. The New York Times is completely wrong. It is not unusual. What the president did today was not unusual. It has never happened. To be unusual, it has to have happened before, but not very often. Never, never. Unusual is not the word for what happened today. The heads of our intelligence agencies have been routinely appearing before the Senate to present the worldwide threat assessment of the intelligence community year in and year out, and never before has a president of the United States written a public statement saying they are wrong, all wrong. In his second tweet about their testimony, the president said, perhaps intelligence should go back to school. What school?
I went to the best schools. I'm like a very smart person. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
I went to the Wharton School of Finance, maybe the hardest school to get into in the country. The Wharton School of Finance. And I was very good, really good.
One thing we know they did not teach Donald Trump at the Wharton School was intelligence. No president has ever publicly insulted the heads of all American intelligence gathering agencies and everyone working in those agencies the way President Trump did today. Perhaps intelligence should go back to school. All of them? Everyone working at the CIA? Everyone working on counterintelligence at the FBI? Everyone at the NSA? Thousands and thousands of people? They should all go back to school? Now, I am not one to police typos on Twitter, but in a tweet where you're telling thousands of people to go back to school, you should not have mistakes like their economy is now crashing. That, of course, should be THEIR. And there seems to be no one named Trump who knows that. Their schools did not teach that, apparently. Donald Trump is now telling us that the people he put in charge of intelligence gathering for the defense of the United States of America should go back to school. He's telling us his choices for those jobs are incompetent.
We've got the best people.
I know the best people.
We're going to use our best people. The best people.
The best people. I know guys that are so good.
Donald Trump promised his voters that he would hire the best people, and 2 years into his presidency, what has happened to those best people? What has happened includes being indicted, pleading guilty to federal crimes, being fired, resigning, and of course, being publicly attacked by Donald Trump, the person who hired them. Donald Trump is telling his true believers today, and only his true believers, because no one else believes this, he's telling them that this government's intelligence gathering agencies are wrong. They are failing in their mission to help defend the United States of America. Donald Trump is telling his followers that after 2 full years of the Trump presidency, the intelligence community, as run by Donald Trump's appointees, is a complete failure. It is Donald Trump's latest insult to the intelligence of his followers and his latest insult to the people he has appointed. Now, if you're Dan Coats, the director of national intelligence, and the president directly insults you publicly today, how and why do you stay in your job? The only reason for the director of national intelligence or the director of the CIA or the director of the FBI or the director of the National Security Agency to stay in their jobs after being publicly insulted by the President of the United States today is that they all recognize that the unstated threat to this country that did not appear in their written report is actually the President of the United States himself, and they are staying in those jobs to defend this country against the threat of the Donald Trump presidency. Dan Coats served as a member of the House of Representatives. He served as a Republican member of the United States Senate and was never once insulted by any member of the House or any senator the way he was insulted by Donald Trump today. And like everyone who worked in the Senate, when Dan Coats was a member, I am absolutely confident that if Senator Coats had ever been insulted like this, he would have immediately taken to the floor of the United States Senate and responded to that insult with righteous indignation. The only thing that I can think of that keeps Dan Coats in that job tonight, after President Trump has made that job much more difficult to do, and after President Donald Trump specifically and directly insulted Dan Coats today, the only reason I can think of that Dan Coats is staying in that job is to help defend this country against the threat of Donald Trump.